We drove past him 3 times before we finally realized what he was. From the window of our moving car, he didn't look like a dog. He didn't even look like an animal. He looked like a pile of gray debris, a stack of broken rocks discarded on the side of a busy highway. Cars were speeding by at 60 miles per hour, missing him by mere inches. The wind from the passing trucks would shake his small, fragile body, but he didn't move. He couldn't move. He had simply curled up in the dirt, closed his eyes, and decided that this was where it would end. When we finally pulled over and stepped out of the car, the first thing that hit us was the silence. Despite the noise of the traffic, he made no sound. No growl, no whimper, not even the heavy breathing of a sleeping animal. We approached slowly, terrified that we might scare him into the road, but we quickly realized our fears were unfounded. He had no energy left to run. He had no energy left to even lift his head. As we got closer, the smell hit us. It was a heavy metallic scent, the smell of severe infection, of decaying skin, of a life that was slowly slipping away into the earth. When we finally stood over him and looked down, our hearts shattered into a million pieces. He had no fur left. Not a single patch. His skin had hardened into a thick gray crust that looked exactly like stone. It was deeply cracked like dry earth in a drought, and blood was seeping from the fissures. His eyes were swollen shut, crusted over with dried infection, blinding him to the world. He was a living statue, trapped inside a shell of agony. He was essentially a puppy, likely no more than 5 or 6 months old, but he looked ancient. He looked like he had been carrying the weight of the world for 100 years. We knew we had to act fast, but touching him was terrifying, not for us, but for him. His skin was so raw that even the slightest brush of a hand caused the hard crust to crack and bleed. We gently wrapped him in a soft towel, and for the first time he made a sound. It was a low, weak moan. It wasn't aggression, it was pure exhaustion. He was telling us that he hurt everywhere. Lifting him into the car felt like lifting a skeleton wrapped in sandpaper. He weighed nothing. He was just bones and this hard, stone-like skin. On the drive to the emergency vet, he didn't move a muscle. He sat frozen in the back seat, trembling uncontrollably. We turned up the heat, trying to warm his cold body, and whispered to him that he was safe now. We told him his name was Leo. We chose that name because he would need the heart of a lion to survive what was coming next. When we walked into the veterinary clinic, the entire room went quiet. The vet team has seen everything: broken bones, car accidents, starvation. But this was different. The vet took one look at Leo and let out a heavy sigh. This condition is called Demodectic mange. It is caused by microscopic mites that burrow into the skin. In a healthy dog, the immune system keeps them in check. But Leo had been starving for so long that his immune system had collapsed. The mites had taken over completely. They had multiplied by the millions, destroying his hair follicles and causing his skin to thicken and harden to protect itself. They ran blood tests immediately. The results were terrifying. Leo was septic. His white blood cell count was through the roof as his body tried to fight the massive infection covering 100% of his skin. He was severely dehydrated, anemic, and his temperature was dangerously low. The vet looked at us with sad eyes and said the words we didn't want to hear. We can try, but you need to be prepared. He might not make it through the night. That first night was the longest night of our lives. We set him up in a quarantine kennel with soft, heated blankets. We started him on 4 fluids and strong antibiotics to fight the sepsis. We sat on the floor next to his cage, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. Every hour we checked to make sure he was still breathing. He looked so lonely, so defeated. We wondered how many people had walked past him in the last few months. How many people had seen this stone dog and looked away because it was too painful to watch. For the first 3 days, Leo didn't move. He refused to eat. He refused to drink. We had to feed him high-calorie recovery paste through a syringe, bit by bit, just to keep his organs functioning. He was in a state of deep depression. It wasn't just physical pain. His spirit was broken. He didn't trust us. He didn't know what a gentle touch was. To him, humans were just shadows that brought pain. The treatment for severe mange is a slow, grueling process. We had to give him medicated baths to soften the hard skin and kill the mites. This was the hardest part. The water stinging his raw flesh must have been excruciating. He would stand in the tub, head hanging low, shaking while we gently poured the water over his back. We apologized to him the whole time. "I'm sorry, Leo. I know it hurts. I promise it's for your own good." We wanted to cry, but we had to stay strong for him. Then on day 4, something shifted. It was small, but it was there. We were sitting with him after his bath, and he lifted his head. His swollen eyes had opened just a crack. He looked at the bowl of food in front of him, and instead of turning away, he took a step forward. He sniffed it, and then he took a bite. It was just one bite, but to us it was a victory. It meant he had decided to fight Dot by the end of the first week. The stone began to break. The hard, grey crust started to peel away in large flakes. It looked terrible, and it was messy, but underneath that dead shell, we saw pink living skin. The infection was clearing. The antibiotics were working. The monster that had trapped him was losing its grip. Day 14 was the turning point that changed everything. One of our volunteers walked into the room with a bag of treats. Usually, Leo would just lie there. But this time he stood up. He walked to the front of the kennel. And then we saw it. A tiny movement at the back of his body. Thump. Thump. It was his tail. It was stiff and it probably hurt to move it, but he was wagging it. The dog that had turned to stone was wagging his tail. From that moment on, the transformation accelerated. It was like watching a flower bloom in fast motion. As the pain subsided, his personality began to emerge. We discovered that Leo wasn't just a survivor. He was a GOOFBALL. He discovered toys for the first time in his life, the first time he saw a squeaky ball. He was confused. He poked it with his nose and it made a noise. He jumped back, ears perked up, looking around to see where the sound came from. When he realized he made the sound, he pounced on it. He played for 10 minutes straight, tossing the ball in the air, clumsy and happy. It was the first time we saw him act like a puppy. Around week 4, the white fuzz appeared. It started on his nose, then his paws. Soft white fur began to cover the pink skin. The itching stopped. He could finally sleep through the night without waking up to scratch. He gained weight 5 pounds, then 10, then 15. His ribs, which used to stick out sharply, were now covered in healthy muscle. But the biggest change wasn't physical. It was in his eyes. When we found him, his eyes were dead. They were empty windows into a broken soul. Now, his eyes were bright, amber pools of liquid love. He looked at us with such intensity, such gratitude. When we sat with him, he would press his body against our legs, leaning in with all his weight, closing his eyes in pure bliss. He was soaking up the love he had missed for his entire life. 6 weeks later, if you looked at Leo, you would never guess he was the same animal. The gray stone statue was gone. In his place stood a magnificent, fluffy white dog with a confident stance and a smile that stretched from ear to ear. We took him out to the grass, the same kind of grass where he once lay dying. But this time, he didn't curl up to give up. He ran. He ran with pure joy, his new white coat shining in the sun, his tongue lolling out. He rolled in the grass, scratching his back not because of mites, but because it felt good. We introduced him to other dogs, and he was gentle and kind. He seemed to understand that he had been given a second chance, and he wanted to share that joy with everyone. He became the favorite of the sanctuary. Every volunteer wanted to walk Leo. Every visitor wanted to meet the miracle dog. Looking back at the photos from day 1, it sends chills down our spine. It is a terrifying reminder of what indifference can do. If we hadn't stopped that day, if we had driven past like everyone else, Leo would have died alone in the dirt, trapped in his stone prison. He would have been just another forgotten statistic. But because we stopped, because we tried, and because you support our mission, Leo is alive. He is not just alive. He is thriving. He is proof that no matter how broken something looks, no matter how hopeless the situation seems, with enough love and medical care, miracles can happen. The stone can be broken, and the spirit inside can be set free. Leo is now ready for the final step of his journey. He is healthy, happy, and vaccinated. He is looking for a forever home, a family who will promise to never let him feel cold or abandoned again. A family who sees him not for what he was, but for the beautiful soul he is now. Every animal deserves a second chance, just like Leo. There are thousands of dogs out there right now waiting for someone to stop and help them. If Leo's story touched your heart, please like this video. It helps the algorithm show this story to more people, which helps us save more lives. And tell us in the comments below, have you ever rescued an animal that everyone else gave up on? We want to read your stories. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And remember, love can heal even the deepest wounds. See you in the next rescue.